It's 6:30. Good morning. The Harper government throne speech has laid out plans for new cyberbullying law and lifetime prison terms for violent criminals. And the Tories are hoping some consumer-friendly measures in their plans will reverse the party's decline in the polls. The speech promised to unbundle cable TV packages, lower smartphone roaming charges, and stop companies from charging for paper invoices. Critics say Harper is reaching out with populist promises in an effort to distract voters from the lingering Senate expense scandal. But NDP leader Tom Mulcair says his party will make sure Canadians don't forget. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau says the blueprint does little to help the average Canadian still looking for work or trying to get out of debt. However, Prime Minister Harper will not be around today to answer questions about the throne speech. He is skipping this first question period to fly to Belgium to work out the final details of a free trade deal with the European Union. Canadian press is reporting the breakthrough came after 4 years of negotiations when Canada agreed to allow more European cheese into the country, that in return for greater access to Europe for Canadian beef and pork. With just minutes to spare before the midnight deadline, U.S. President Barack Obama signed legislation to avert an American government default on its debts. The bill also ends a 16-day partial government shutdown, meaning hundreds of thousands of federal employees are headed back to work. But the legislation is only a temporary fix, funding the government through January 15th and allowing normal borrowing through February 7th. The Republicans' only minor success to changing Obamacare was the addition of a system of income verification for subsidies to prevent fraud. Obama praised Congress for finally reaching an agreement.
We'll begin reopening our government immediately, and we can begin to lift this cloud of uncertainty and unease from our businesses and from the American people.
Flu season is here, and there's a new option for people getting vaccinated, especially those who don't like needles. Vancouver Coastal Health has given doctors its first big shipment of vaccine. It includes a large amount of FluMist, a nasal spray that is an alternative that is to a shot. It was tried out in a Vancouver pilot project last year and will now be available across the province and free for kids. Nearly 700,000 British Columbians are expected to participate in today's massive earthquake drill. Organizers of this year's Shakeout BC say more than 100,000 more of us have pledged to take part this year. At exactly 10:17 this morning, participants will perform the drop, cover and hold protocol. Schools, businesses and government organizations are among those practicing. And some politicians representing Vancouver's West End worry no amount of preparation will mitigate the destruction St. Paul's Hospital will suffer in a big quake. They say a comprehensive plan to review the facility has yet to materialize despite the Liberals' election promise of $500 million to upgrade the facility.
This hospital that stands behind us would not survive in an earthquake. We know that the central building here would collapse. We know that the side buildings have a 10 to 20% seismic rating. So 2/3 of St. Paul's campus is at high risk or extreme risk of failure in the event of an earthquake.
Environmentalists have ended their protest at Kinder Morgan in Burnaby. Police were called out, but 16 demonstrators left peacefully last night to avoid being arrested. The protest started in the morning when members of Greenpeace chained themselves to the facility. Kinder Morgan wants to expand the Trans Mountain Pipeline and increase production at the plant, but the protest was directed at the Prime Minister and the fuel projects promoted in his government's throne speech yesterday.
As long as Stephen Harper promotes star sands and pipeline projects, there will be protests like that. That's for sure.
Kinder Morgan says the demonstration didn't prevent any fuel deliveries because none were scheduled. A taxpayers' watchdog is asking some tough questions about why TransLink's top executives make so much money. Jordan Bateman with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation took TransLink's CEO Ian Jarvis's salary and made some comparisons. Turns out he's making $90,000 to $100,000 more than his counterparts in Toronto and Montreal, even though those systems are far larger. Jarvis makes $200,000 more than Premier Christy Clark and even beats the Prime Minister's salary by $75,000. It is 6:35, time to get you up to speed on the world of sports, and for that we head to the Connected Studios. Here's James Cebulski.